Yeah.
My hearing
Is it right like this?
That's good.
Okay. No, your book is brilliant. It's funny. It's sad. It's a father-son story. It's his family, roots, blood. There's everything in it. Irish, Italian. Who encouraged you to write this beside of you? Who?
The book came along by accident. We really wrote a small essay after we played the Super Bowl, and we put it online. And I liked the voice that I found to write it in. So I said, well, you know, that's not too bad. Maybe I'll try to keep writing a few things. We were down in Florida at the time, and so I just started to write. Not thinking about what I was going to do with it. I didn't think it was going to be a book or not. Then finally I put enough together where it looked like it was a project I was involved in, and it became the book. So.
Yeah, it became a book, but you had to find a sound for this, because it's a very nice sound you have. Yeah.
You had to find a voice that was believable, that worked as prose. I had to see how what the quality of my prose writing was, and once I got into it, I enjoyed it very much.
You had no fear for revealing your magic tricks?
You do.
You're very open in this book.
I think when I was younger, I certainly wouldn't have written it. Matter of fact, for years, I never even looked at a video of the band, for fear that, superstitious that it might, the magician might look too close at his magic. So, but I think at this point in time, after 40, 50 years of playing, it's pretty well established. So I didn't have too many concerns about it.
Reading the book, it's some kind of on-the-road feeling. Yeah, there are many descriptions of traveling. You travel from the East Coast to the West Coast. Your parents moved to the West Coast. Sure. You were a hitchhiker. Hitchhiking was your life. So you were always on the road. Right now, you had the river tour and you had the Wrecking Ball tour, going back, always touring. So is there some kind of gypsy soul inside of you?
Yeah, I think musicians are transient. There's got to be, you got to have some gypsy blood in you if you're going to be a musician. You better like traveling. I think most musicians need to move. There's a restless part of your personality that needs to move from place to place. Certainly when I was young, I was captivated with the movement and the travel, and I didn't have a home, so it didn't matter where I was, Then the mythic musician is, got the suitcase, and it's the suitcase and the bus for the rest of your life, but you do reach a point in your life where you want a little bit more than that. I still enjoy traveling and moving from place to place, but it's nice to have a home too.
It's nice to have a home and a family, of course. Yes. Yeah, you have a family, so you're quite settled in the States. But when you're on tour, you're the king, and when you're at home, you're not. That was the way, yeah?
That is so true.
Yeah. To me, it's a book about, I said before, family and things you never can escape from. Family belongs to you. All the people you grow up with, they belong to you. So one important part of, I read it and I know it, one important part for you are women. Your mother, your aunts, your wife Patty. What did they give to you? What is the important part?
Well, I think that musicians are in love with impermanence. And there's something about that there's always another chance. Tomorrow you're going to be in a new town, in a new place. But eventually that does wear thin. So I think the women in my life always brought a sense of permanence, a sense of lasting things that would be with you forever. My mother certainly provided a strong sense of rootedness through her own personal consistencies, her own daily ritual of getting up and going to work and coming home and taking care of the family day after day after day, year after year after year. And there was a blessing in that sort of permanence. So for years you forget about it, you're young, you're traveling around, but something starts eating away at you at a certain point, and you begin to yearn for something that's more permanent than your nightly gigs and the audience. You know, you yearn for a place of your own. You want a place of your own. And I think the women in my life, Patty certainly, that was one of her great gifts to me, and something I treasure very highly.
Besides being your wife and mother of your kids, she's important for your music as well?
Yeah, musically we were 2 guitar players, 2 songwriters, 2 singers, so we had a certain thing in common there. I understood her a little bit, she understood me a little easier than in some of my other relationships. So she brought a lot of musical joy into my life. She's a great songwriter and singer in her own right. And it was just a blending of 2 souls that worked out very well, you know.
Yeah, you talk a lot about of soul and the illness. There are ill souls as well. Depression is one big part of this book, and it's the other side of, how do you say, there's the relationship to your father.
Right.
It was a very tough relationship. I don't know, was he the type of man who was always helpful to you? No, he wasn't. But what is the thing you miss when you think about your father today? You described it very well, but what do you miss?
I just miss his presence, you know, that we got along quite well towards the middle and end of his life, and he was enjoyable to be around, you know, as we both got older. He was somewhat humorous, soft-hearted. He was filled with a lot of sweetness, actually. And I miss coming in and seeing him at the kitchen table. When I was young, it frightened me or intimidated me. But as I got older, I got used to him. If I went to my parents' house, I got used to him still sitting at that kitchen table, doing the same things he'd always done. And it became a bit of it became something I looked forward to as I grew into my own manhood. You know, we had a tough relationship when I was young. It was very generational also. You forget this was the 60s.
He didn't love your long hair. You had this bad accident and put you to...
That would put him in the company of millions of other fathers in 1965. You know, there was just a tremendous generational conflict, and it was impossible to cross those borders and to understand one another at the time. So
you became a superstar, more and more mainstream, bigger and bigger, and during the Born in the USA period. What did he say about your music? Did he listen to it, or didn't he? What was his?
I always make a joke about it where I'd make my records, I'd bring them over to my parents' house and give them to my mom, and I knew she would play them and play them. But I never heard anything about from my dad. Not till the very end of his life when I asked him what his favorite songs were. And he said, oh, the ones about me. And so we communicated. It was my intent for us to communicate through the music, or at least to me express what my feelings were about our relationship in some of my early songs. So it ended up he had listened to them after all, you know, which was nice. But it was difficult, you know. My father had a difficult life and suffered through quite a bit of illness, as did many other members of his family. So
to me, one of the best chapters is when you described your journey with your father to Mexico for the fishing thing. It's great. You were a superstar, enormous rich, and he said, no, I put it the way I do, yeah? I organized it for us, but it was horrible, huh?
That was a funny trip. Yeah, my pop called me up, asked me to take a fishing trip with him. Now, neither of us had actually fished in our entire life, but my dad had some Ernest Hemingway-esque vision of us going out and catching the big one, man, catching that big marlin. If you read it in the book, there's a rather funny chapter on our adventures. It didn't quite work out as planned, but it ended up being a meaningful trip anyway for me.
In the end, you said, yeah, that was the way it should have been.
Yeah, he gave me something in the end that I couldn't have gotten if I'd have hired the biggest yacht and brought us out on it. You know, so it was ended up being a lovely and quite funny gift from my dad.
Before you played for the first time in Germany, Pete Townsend told you the Germans are what did he say, the worst audience in the world. What has changed since then? When did you realize it isn't so?
I hate to throw Pete Townsend under the bus, but I believe that's what he told me before we came over.
So how was it?
It ended up being fantastic, actually. You know, I forget the name of the place we played at first, but it was in Hamburg. And it was a rather small place that I believe I played again, either on the Tom Joad or Devils and Dust tour. One of them I went and played that building again. But we came over, we started to play, audience sat in their seats, and I'll always remember, for some reason, when we hit Badlands, people got up en masse and rushed the stage, and it's been fantastic ever since. So.
You played a lot of epic shows, London, Gothenburg, East Berlin, for example. What makes the difference? You have a special relationship to European fans, I think.
Our fans in Europe are simply some of the most passionate in the world, you know, in the world. It's just been an immediate connection since 1980 onward. Certainly the show in East Berlin was a major moment for us. It goes up as one of our greatest shows. Just the stakes that were involved. The band tends to play well when the stakes are very high. So we knew going into East Berlin at that time was rolling the dice quite a bit. And then the amount of people that showed up, I don't remember how many it was in the end. 160,000 or more, you know. But it was an epic evening for us, you know, and it just seemed like a very important show to play. So, and audience was unforgettable.
It's funny because these are such huge venues, and you play stadiums. But on the one hand side, yeah, you're very hardworking, and you're a bar band on the one hand side with great experience. On the other hand side, you're a very storytelling band and musician. So, is this the right mix to how do you say, to handle any kind of situation?
Well, I was lucky in that I had 10 years of playing experience before I ever signed a record contract. And in those 10 years, as a very young man, I played in front of every conceivable audience. I played in front of all black audiences. I played in soul revues. I played in front of the supermarkets, drive-ins, firemen's fairs, VFW halls, CYO dances. Just every conceivable kind of show you could imagine in front of every conceivable type of audience, from the accepting to the semi-hostile, you know. So I had all that under my belt by the time I signed my record contract. So I knew a lot about performing when I was 22 years old, 23 years old. And I brought that with me, and it served me in good stead to this very moment. When we come out on stage in front of a stadium, I'm relaxed, you know, we're relaxed, we're confident, and I know the kind of effort my band can put in on behalf of our audience. So it's, but the experience was deeply, deeply important, and still still serves me to this day.
So you can even handle situations like in Paris this summer when the power got out. There was no electricity in the house. But you played on?
Yeah, that, for some reason, everything shut off except my guitar amp. Why? My guitar amp was the only thing that continued to play. So Max and I did the best we could with just guitar and drums. But yeah, those things happen. You know, we've had the power drop on us on a couple of different occasions. It's the worst feeling in the world, but we make our way through just about anything.
Yeah, and everybody remembers this.
It's memorable.
Yeah. At the end of the Wrecking Ball tour, it was in Ireland. You said something, and you said it, I think, right now as well during the river tour. The older you get, the more it means.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean? What was in your head?
Well, we're at an age now where the band is certainly at its best. We played some of the longest shows of our entire work life over the past 3 months or so. So the band still peaks at an incredible level. But it is finite. You know, you look at your age, okay, I'm 67. If I did it for 10 more years, I'd be 77, 80, you know, and I certainly plan to keep going as long as I feel like it and as long as the fates allow. But you do see a finiteness to it. And then you have a long relationship with your audience that deepens and grows richer every year. And then you see the new audience come in, which is very touching. It's very emotional to see young kids come to see you. And then you see the people who've been with you for 40 years and have seen you 100 times, 50 times, 25, you know, just show upon show upon show. And you feel deeply, deeply, deeply connected to those people. So it's a lovely deepening experience as you continue on. You know.
It's a kind of bigger brotherhood you created because you respond, and I saw it this year. It was there were many touching moments. You were quiet, not too loud. It was emotional. So. Everyone realized this, so
yeah, it's moving.
It's a huge family. It's a family thing. Something like this. It's a community. Yeah.
Well, I always thought that our band we were never a top 40 band. We were always this huge cult act. It seemed to me, you know, and it still feels like that somewhat.
Your song "Long Walk Home." There's one line. Your flag's flying over the courthouse means certain things are set in stone. Who we are, what we'll do, and what we won't. Now we have a new tone. We have someone like Donald Trump, who makes a mess of it. What do you think about it? It's like Pandora's box is open, or what is it?
A little bit, yeah. He's been very disastrous. He won't win, but he's already damaged the country, I think, in a way that could be a little difficult to repair. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping in 20 days he loses, it's over, and we begin to repair ourselves from his disastrous candidacy. But even as far as I watched the debate last night where he refused to say
the debate last night? Yeah.
He refused to say if he'd concede the election if he lost. You know, so he's put himself in front of the country as you know in a way that there's never been another political candidate in modern history who's had both the foolishness or the hubris to do so, you know. Very, very embarrassing, very distasteful, and I'll be glad when he goes down hard.
But you have a privilege. You saw the world. You traveled around the world. You saw other countries and other societies. Many in your country, they have not this privilege to travel around the world. And
Yeah.
To see how complex the things are.
It's a blessing, you know. I mean, if I hadn't gotten involved in music, I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to travel very much. I mean, we traveled when we were kids with $100 in our pockets and across the country and back. But I think once if I had a family, it would have been very difficult for us to move. So the traveling has been a blessing, along with meeting a lot of people from in other worlds and other societies. It's been something I've enjoyed tremendously.
Yeah. Last question. Okay, finally, Bob Dylan. Yeah, okay, Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan and the Nobel Prize. So, you had Elvis and you had the Beatles, and you said Bob Dylan was the father of your country. What did he give to you?
You know, I think the first time I heard a version of America that I believed in was when I heard Highway 61, Like a Rolling Stone. There was something in that music that felt deeply authentic, deeply true, and held a vision of my country that I could stand behind, you know, the criticalness of that music and all. It was a great gift, and he's continued he's continued at a level of excellence that I only hope I can get near as he's gone into his 70s and older, you know. So the Nobel is a wonderful thing. It's well deserved, and long after the rest of us are forgotten, people will remember Bob's music.
Did you had the chance to tell him this?
No, I haven't seen him in quite a while.
So, yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.